All right, we're here and happening, and it's a beautiful morning in southern Alberta where you and I both reside. But when people come and join us in Coffee Club Tyrone, they're from all over the place. So it's really exciting. So we're going to kind of stall for a minute and wait for some live people to join us. But if you're catching this video later on the replay, just drink coffee with us for a moment. We're going to get into the details in a second. Or I have a feeling like you're not drinking coffee. You're drinking like an elixir or something. Am I right?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's
Yeah.
like a nice mix of cacao and shilajit and some other mushrooms in here. Not the magic mushrooms, but
Yeah.
like lion's mane and stuff. So it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I knew it. I'm drinking decaf, so I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Have you ever had Dandelion's blend?
Yeah, that's actually what I tossed in here as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I do
feel
like a
like
dirty
it's the
chai with it.
most, yeah, it's the closest equivalent to coffee that I can find that I don't mind the taste of.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually tastes really good. There's another one by Harmonic Arts called Kickstart, and it has
Oh,
like this one called Ramon Nut, which like the flavor of that tastes like coffee as well too. So
oh, okay. That sounds pretty good. It's awesome. All right. Well, as you join Coffee Club, please say hello in the comments. Join our conversation. As Tyrone and I chat this morning, if you have a question or a comment, please feel free to throw that in and we will connect with you. Again, if you're watching the replay and you have a question about cold dipping and some of the things we're going to talk about today, throw them in there because Tyrone will be able to come back and see those questions as well as myself. And we would love to help you because it's been kind of a fun journey. But first of all, I just want to say, Tyrone, welcome to Virtual Coffee Club. You've been someone who's been on my list to have as a guest on the show for a very long time. And, sometimes the universe just aligns when we're supposed to, right?
yeah. Oh, it feels perfect with your journey with the cold dips. So
Well, we finally got to cold dip together last weekend. And I think what was really funny in that moment for me is I remember you and I mean, you've been cold dipping for a while, and we talked about this. You and I were on the Community Wellness Challenge Committee together in High River. I want to say 5 or 6 years ago now because I lose track of time. So at least that long ago. And I feel like you were really just starting to get into your cold dipping journey then. And you were doing it in the ice. And I thought you were absolutely insane. And I remember sitting at the table and you were like, Jody, I really think you should try this. Like, this would be really good for you. And I'm like, hell to the no. Like, I had a moment where I was like, maybe one day, Tyrone, but I think you're crazy. This looks way too cold. And you were like, okay. And then fast forward 5 years, and there we are sitting in the Sheep River together going, remember then? Like, remember then?
wow.
So isn't that wild?
Yeah, that's wild. It has been a journey. I remember that. I think only in like the last maybe like 4 years it's really taken off,
Yeah.
like mainstream, I'd say, like the cold dipping and stuff. So yeah, I was the crazy dude of the town.
Yeah.
I was just hopping in the river in the winter.
Yeah, and and I think people have heard of, like New Year's Day polar plunges, and I think we've seen, ice baths for athletes over the years, but it's really, like you said, become sort of this mainstream element. And honestly, for the longest time, even of recent, I was like, this is a weird fad that the community is going through. Like, why do people want to get cold? I hate being cold. Why would anyone do this? Until you take that first plunge and
Yeah,
everything changes.
yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we're going to talk about cold dipping, but I want to like rewind for a moment and just like, how did you get into this and how has it been such a key piece of your health and wellness journey?
Yeah, the first time that I started with the cold dips, it really started with what you were talking about before with like that athletic perspective. I was
Yeah.
hitting the gym really hard and I started doing cold showers. I heard about it because it was called like the James Bond shower, supposedly. It was a James Bond thing. And it helped increase testosterone and and helped me with recovery. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I got introduced to Wim Hof. So for anyone that's getting started with the cold dips, check out Wim Hof because he's been doing it for a long time and has a beautiful perspective on it. And that really started getting me out into the actual like rivers, not just like the cold tubs and the cold showers, but getting out onto the land and then getting immersed into that cold river. And his story is beautiful. It was really from the perspective of doing cold dips for like mental wellness and for your soul. So I resonated with that a lot because I was going through some difficult times in my life, and the cold dip was one of those things that was really revitalizing for my life. It was not just about recovery or increasing my testosterone anymore. It was about growing as a person and really connecting with myself and the land. And I think that's where I found healing, was in reconnecting with the land and reconnecting with my elemental self. Because I think whenever we cold dip, it reflects so much back to us, whether that's like our fear or whether that's our aspirations. So the cold was one of those things that helped me get in tune with my own soul, really. Um, and yeah, just from that first experience, it's kind of like a baptism almost, like you're like the first cold dip, you get out of the cold and you're like, whoa, like things are not going to be the same.
It's kind of it's sort of it's hard to describe to people, I think, has been the best, because I've been asked, which I'm sure you have too, as you start doing it and sharing it into a public sort of journey to bring people alongside you, you start to get people to ask you why, and the why is a really hard answer outside of it just starts to feel right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you start with the why of it. Yeah. And that it's gonna be different for so many people. I know even like during like the whole COVID times and stuff like that, it was such an amazing thing for me to be connected onto the land. Everything, like our whole entire society just felt like it was like a slower pace as well too. So be able to go out and connect in that sense was like, I think, really necessary for my soul, and I think for us as a culture to like
Yeah.
slow down. I heard this amazing quote that was like, "The times are urgent. We need to slow down." And so I think the cold dips is one of those things where you can slow down, you can get connected with your body, you get connected with who you really are as a person and how you're showing up in the world. So it's one of those beautiful practices to do that. So
And I feel like it was during COVID that, I mean, maybe it happened before, but I feel like because people were online more, watching content more, that's really when you became famous in this neck of the woods as being Aquaman. You were like, you became the Foothills Aquaman doing this thing. And people all the time, they're like, do you know Aquaman? And I'm like, who? Like,
That's
but it's
hilarious.
kind of funny that you've been dubbed with this new title. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all.
It's complimentary, if nothing else. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've gone into a few stores actually just because of the long hair, and they're like, after a few times, they're like, "Yeah, we call you Aquaman here." And I'm like, "Hey, check out my Instagram and watch the videos. It'll make
Yeah,
sense."
yeah, and then it will all come together, so it's good. Now, I know that, I think you and I both connect with cold dipping even more so because it's become sort of this part of that spiritual journey, and I am 100% with you on, like, I bought myself, a cold tub, for at home for days when, like, life is just more hectic, because to take the time to go to the river and do that process takes a chunk of time, but there's something about that process that has become one of the most healing things I think that I've ever done. Like, I love when you shared about connecting to the land and being in the water, and I think there's something so prolific about the river flowing past you when you're in that space, and all of the things around, like, it becomes it's become a ritual, and anybody that I've had the opportunity to take with me now has really connected with that piece, and it's been so freaking beautiful, and it's kind of undescribable. And I hope people will overcome those fears of how cold is the water and what happens in that process to give it a try, because it's really just so fantastic.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah, it's such a healing, process in that, like, the way that I've connected with it through the land is, like, really seeing our elemental self. So,
Mhm.
through studying herbalism, I've, like, learned how nature reflects all of these elements, you know, fire, ice, water, earth, the ether,
Yeah.
and each plant that we see in the natural world has all these different compositions. And so, same thing if you look through Ayurveda, there's different body types. Like certain people are more fire, certain people are more ice, you know. So the cold is going to hit different with everyone. But nature reflects all those things back to us, which we are. And so I think the element of connecting through the land is really tying us back in to that story of connection with the land, because I
Mhm.
think a lot of like the mental illnesses, a lot of the things that we go through on our spiritual journey come from that disconnection that we have with the land. That's where we see like the anxiety, the depression. So when we connect back with the land, we're actually reconnecting with the story of unity. We're connecting back with that story and letting go of the idea of separation. So, like you were saying, you know, when you're in that river and it's all just flowing past you, you viscerally feel it, and it's
Yeah.
something that you have to feel somatically with your
Yeah.
body. Um, and again, yeah, pretty indescribable because it's so different for everyone, you
Yeah.
know.
And is it cold? Yeah, it's not warm. Like it's like I'm always honest, like, yeah, no, it's cold. But there's something also in that moment of just being able to like stop, connect to your breath, and just dunk
Mm,
into the water. And is it freaky the first few times? It's still freaky sometimes. I've done it now 16 days in a row
yeah.
without missing a day, and there's days where it feels easy and fresh and fun, and there's days where I'm like, what am I doing in this freaking river? I'm so cold. And I think we have to be really honest on, we could paint this, it's always rainbows and sunshines and spiritual whatever. No, some days it totally sucks when it's cold
Yeah.
out. It just does for a moment. But the other piece you feel from it outweighs the moment where you're just too cold to think.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, for however long I've been doing it, there like
Yeah.
almost every time when I go, there's always that like little hesitation, almost sometimes where I'm like, dang, am I really still doing this? And like for people that are just starting out, I know that they're like through this little mainstream the trend with the cold dipping, there is like this element of like, hey, how long did you stay in for? Like people will
Yeah.
always ask that. I love to think of it as like how many walls did you actually like overcome? You know, like
Yeah.
for me, it's like when I see people just show up for a cold dip, I'm like, all right, you already got over the first wall. And then
Yeah.
when they like get into the water, I'm like, all right, you got past the second wall. And then it's like you're in the
Yeah.
water and then you're going through what you were talking about where it's like this sucks, like this is cold. It's like if you can stay a little time in there and get over that, then
Yeah.
that's your third wall. And so from like a mental perspective, I would always start off cold dips being like, I am someone who embraces their fears and has the courage to overcome those things. So it becomes an embodiment practice where you're embodying those principles that you want to see in your life, where you're like, I'm actually someone who's really strong. I'm actually someone who
Mhm.
is capable of doing things that I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
So I encourage everyone that's like first starting to really embrace that, and then you can embody it through the cold dips.
Absolutely. Well, and I think for me, I decided, so I did my first dip with a mutual friend of ours, Jess, who is a part of the cold dip group in Okotoks that we'll talk about in a moment. And
Yes.
we had this it was really fun. And then we did it again and we brought somebody else with us. And then I was like, okay, I want to find another fun spot. And we did it again. And then on that day, I kind of went, you know what? I think I'm going to really push myself out of my comfort zone. And I want to do it for 30 days straight.
Yes.
Why I had that epiphany by the water, I do not know. Like, I still am like, really? But I think even on the days when it's been colder out or it's been raining and I'm like, why did I start cold dipping in October? Like August would have been way better. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's even just the promise you make to yourself and fulfilling it. So even if you went, I'm going to try cold dipping once, and you
Yeah.
make that promise to yourself and then you do it, that feels just as amazing as the benefit you get from the actual dip, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, when we did our cold dip there last week, I could like feel the energy of that commitment from you. Like,
Yeah.
it felt like you had been cold dipping for like 20 years.
Yeah. just an old soul. I feel like my soul's like, there we go, girl. You're finally back. I'm a
Yeah.
water person, so it's the perfect healing element for me. We have a question from Rhonda. She's wondering, do you know the temperature of the Highwood River? Do you know?
Ooh.
I do have no idea.
I never bring the thermometer, but
No, me neither. I've
it's
never thought to.
it's cold.
She fresh. So is the sheep. They're both the same. And I dipped also in the Elk River in BC, right in the mountains. And that one,
Ooh.
that's cold too. But Rhonda says they dipped in their outdoor pool at Thanksgiving and it was 15 degrees.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's colder than that
Yeah.
for sure.
Cold.
Yeah. I think
Much
around
cold.
this time it's probably around, I don't know, like 4 to 6
Yeah.
degrees maybe. The thing with dipping in the river for people to know is that when you're like in the ice bath or you're in a still body of water and you're sitting in there, you actually create a thermogenic layer around your body. So it's actually a little bit easier if you're just starting to do the cold dips in the bathtub where you can actually build that layer. But when you're in the river and you said like how the water is passing by you, you don't get a chance to actually build up that thermogenic layer as well. So
Oh,
a little bit more
okay.
difficult sometimes.
Whereas to me, I have the tub, but getting into it I feel more hesitation to that than jumping into the river. So, but it's a nature thing for me for sure. But
For sure.
can you talk a little bit about, I don't know if I put you on the spot when I say this, because I know the reasons behind your cold dip are more of a spiritual nature, but there is some science behind it. And I know that sometimes for people, it can be comforting to know that there is some scientific benefit if you gravitate more to that kind of information of
Yeah.
why this is so beneficial for your mind and your body.
Yeah, absolutely. Two people that people can research because I mean they came out with the science, but there's a lady called Susan Soyberg. She came out with a book, and a lot of the science that she talks about is about the hot and cold therapy. She recommends about 11 minutes of cold exposure a week. She did a study on all of the benefits of the cold dipping that she can talk about with that. But 11 minutes of cold exposure is all that you need for a week. And then Andrew Huberman as well too has a podcast that people can check out. He's got some really good information on it. In terms of like the physical benefits, in terms of your nervous system regulation is one of the best things I've found. And what a lot of the science says as well too is like actually learning how to tap into that parasympathetic system and get like a good feel for am I in sympathetic right now? Am I in fight or flight right now? And so the cold actually helps you to learn how to regulate that. And a big part of that is through the breath. So same thing, a lot of the science of the breath work and the cold therapy kind of go together. And then, of course, there's all the science around like athletic recovery, like reducing inflammation, improving your immune system, which Wim Hof has done a lot of science. And that's one of his biggest feats is like showing the scientific realm what is possible as well, too, in terms of actually being able to improve our immune system. So what we thought was the autonomic nervous system, we can actually turn it into a conscious process. So there's that with the cold dips. And I mean, so many benefits that go with it, even in terms of like your mental capacity as well too, is just overcoming that challenge every single day. And like you said, the ritual aspect of it is something that's so powerful to us, and translates over into our life. You know, it's like that split second when you're about to get into the cold and you're like, am I gonna do this? And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. So that translates so well into other areas of our life. Like as an example, I used to practice, and I still do sometimes, but like freestyle
Yeah.
rapping kind of thing. And there's this event, and I was like about to go on stage, and I was like, nah, I don't think I'll do it. And then there's like that moment where I'm like, dude, this is just like the cold dips, like 5 seconds of courage, let's go.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing it. So
Yeah.
like all the benefits translate so well over into our everyday part of life mentally
Yeah.
as well. So
Absolutely. I mean, outside of it being and you warm back up after. So for the people who are like, I just hate being cold. Well, you're not going to be cold forever. And I think my feel like one of the most impactful things you've shared today, Tyrone, is that it's not about the length of time. It's about how many walls that you've done. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, there's no way I could go in there for 20 minutes. Well, you don't have to go in for 20 minutes. Do
no,
two. It doesn't, the amount really is irrelevant at the end of the day. Like, and if you weren't hitting the 11 minutes a week, it doesn't mean you're not going to still get benefit from that. So just don't get hung up on the, like, your fear of
yeah,
the length of time, because that can be so irrelevant in the whole piece of it. And I
big.
think the other thing that's been so cool is the community that builds around it. And so I know that there is on, if you want to search them on Instagram, it's called Cold Dip Okotoks. So there's a group in Okotoks, but you know what, if you're watching from somewhere else, there's a good chance your community has a cold dip group, or you could start one. But the
Yeah,
community that happens in it, like I came and experienced the group for the first time last week, and I knew, I think, three of you. The
yeah,
rest of the people were all brand new people I had never met, but I felt so welcome and so comfortable. And you're all there to do a like-minded activity. Even people who were like really hesitant to get into the water, right? It was like encouragement and love. And like, if people can
yeah.
tap into community like that, like there's another whole element of benefit for your mental health and your physical health.
Oh, yeah. That's been one of the most amazing things about the cold dip that I've really appreciated. Like you said before, when we first met, I was like, I was this crazy dude by the river by myself. And then slowly and slowly, like people that like really resonated with it and felt called to it were like, oh, like I need to join you for this. And like I've met so many amazing souls through this. And you know, I think it's just it's so powerful, because yeah, you're coming together in that like-minded sense. And I think anyone who like sees the cold dip and they feel that call, it's like the
Yeah.
hero's journey, right? Where you're like, oh, this is my call to adventure. Like I'm gonna answer the call. And so to be on that path with other people of transformation,
Yeah.
it's a powerful thing because you can support each other through that. And in the community, we just mirror things back to each other as
Yeah.
well in a beautiful way. So I love that you spoke about the community aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think connection is one of the deepest things we seek in our human experience, and so this is an opportunity to do that. And then I hope helps take some of the fear. Like there's a WhatsApp group chat for this cold dipping group, and there was someone who had messaged in there the other day that they hadn't really done it and they were feeling kind of scared and they didn't know how to prepare, and everybody just started being like, here's what you should bring and come and join us. And it allows you to kind of step into something feeling safe and supported at the same time, which, again, those five fundamental emotions that we need as humans, those are two big ones, right? So
Yeah. It's
yeah.
huge. It's huge. Yeah.
So
The
the so when does the Okotoks group meet? Like, how could people, if you were in Southern Alberta and you wanted to check that out, where do they do that?
Yeah. So we dip every Saturday at 11:30 in Okotoks. We have a beautiful spot, like so
So
beautiful.
beautiful.
I mean, we got the birds flying over
Yeah.
top. We got a nice little beach.
Yeah.
Um, so people can check that out via Instagram. We have the one called Cold Dip Okotoks. And then people can also, whether they're following you or Jess or me, my Instagram's triple T Tyrone.Morales. And I got a whole bunch of information about cold dipping on there. Most of my videos are about cold dipping. And they can send me a message personally, or
Yeah.
they can message the Cold Dip Okotoks and then sign up for that WhatsApp group that you were talking about. And then we'll send them the location, because I
Yeah.
would love to have more people
More,
if
the
they go.
more the merrier. There's room for all of us in a healing journey for sure. I know that there's a group, I don't know much of the details, in Calgary that does it in Bowness, but I think if people Google search sort of community cold dipping groups, they'll find it. But if somebody doesn't have that opportunity to connect into it, just I'm sure we could probably talk about cold dipping for hours, but we'll try to
Mhm.
keep it simple for today. But
Yeah.
if somebody wants to try it or start or do, like, what's the best way to introduce yourself that is easy and safe? Even, like, we don't just want people just going and jumping in the river
Yeah.
alone, that kind of thing. Like, what's the best sort of process people could go into?
Yeah, I would start with the cold showers.
Yep.
That's how I got started with it. And I mean, in the cold shower, you always have the opportunity to turn it and you got hot water. So it's a safe environment. Of course, I always recommend for people like when they're first starting with the cold therapy, if they have to check in with your doctor, check in with your health to see if you have any contraindications with it. If you have any conditions, like certain heart conditions or cardiovascular. So check in with yourself with that first, and see if it's actually something that you do, that you could do safely. So and then after that, if it's a green light, then yeah, like dive head in with it with the cold showers. I know like some people, they're like, nah, I'm just gonna do it. So
Yeah.
if you're one of those types, then yeah, just go and do it. But if you want to kind of slowly work your way into it, start with like 15-second cold showers, 15 seconds of cold, and you can start your shower like nice and warm and hot, and then you can switch it to the cold for like 15 seconds, turn it back hot, and then go back another 15, and just increase the time over like 30 days.
Yeah.
But that's a good place to start, is the cold showers. Even reducing your layers that you wear in the winter time as well too. Really depends on how far you want to take it
Yeah.
and like what some of your goals are as well. So
That's pretty awesome. And so will you still, like, because you cold dip in the winter, like when things are frozen, you cut through the ice and still do it?
yeah, yeah. The cold one that Jess and I did last year was about -34. We did it. And yeah, that was a tricky one, but wow, like the rush of doing that was like, whew, that
Yeah,
felt good.
I wouldn't start there for people when it's
No, I wouldn't. I
-34,
wouldn't.
because there's things you have to do to protect yourself from hypothermia, and obviously making sure you're warming up when the air temperature is that crazy too. But I think there's got to be a rush to getting into the water when you're
Yeah.
standing on ice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna like, I'm gonna do it with you this winter. It's gonna happen. That's why
Yeah.
I'm prepping myself for the winter plunge. But I won't be going every day to hack through the ice, because that just seems like way too much work. But I appreciate so much your time and your sharing and your passion of cold dipping. And it's quite the journey, isn't it, friend? It's quite the
Oh,
journey.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. And it gets juicier and juicier every time. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, again, if anybody has any questions about cold dipping or wants to connect with some other materials or anything like that, please throw a comment in and we'll connect you with some of the people that Tyrone talked about. You can connect with his Instagram. We'll put a link to there, and just give yourself an opportunity to step outside that fear and just start investigating it. If you've thought about it for even a split second of like, maybe that would be interesting, that's the seed that's already been planted for you. Like, it really is, because you will
Yes.
keep thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Answer that call.
Yeah,
And I mean, this is such a good opportunity. Like when we talk about stepping outside your comfort zone, like this is it, you know.
yeah,
Rumi has a really beautiful poem that I want to leave people with where
please.
he talks about, you know, we've been busy accumulating solace and comfort, like pray for a tough instructor to stay and be with you. And for me, the cold is that tough instructor. So you know, we live in very comfortable times, I would say. So really take that opportunity to reflect and be like, am I playing safe in life? Am I playing in my comfort zone? Like, is it time to step outside of that? And if the answer is yes, then yeah, come join us for a cold dip or begin your own journey with that. So
Yeah,
um and the pain, the cure for the pain is the pain. So if it is cold, you got to embrace it. So
yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
yeah,
Awesome.
thank you, Jody, for
Thank
today and
you
for your
so
time.
much. Yeah, I appreciate it so very much. And friends, we hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. If you're in Southern Alberta, like today's a high of 19 and tomorrow is like 20. So that's a good time to give it a go because you don't feel as cold when you come out of the water. Trust me.
Yeah,
Uh, the days where it's been like, I think I dipped the other degrees out. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, it
right?
feels so good. Um, still cold, but so much better. But
Y
yeah, just appreciate that so much. And friends, have an amazing rest of your week. And we'll just give everybody a great big cheers. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Tyrone, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank